The War Council chamber aboard the Triumphant Resolve fell silent as Commander Lyra Hale entered. Her boots echoed against the polished titanium floor, each step measured and deliberate. She carried no datapad, no ceremonial weapons, only herself, and that was enough. General Korath of the Vrexian Dominion sat at the head of the table, his scaled bulk dominating the space. His kind had conquered 17 star systems before humanity had even discovered faster-than-light travel. Now reluctant allies in a war against the consuming swarm, the Vrexians made no secret of their disdain for their human counterparts. The human arrives. Korath's voice rumbled like distant thunder. His amber eyes tracked Lyra as she took her seat. Late as usual. Do your kind not understand military punctuality? I was ensuring the civilian evacuations from Helix Station were complete, Lyra replied evenly. All 14,000 souls are aboard transport vessels. Korath's mandibles clicked, the Vrexian equivalent of a dismissive snort. Concern for the weak, how? Predictably human. The other commanders around the table shifted uncomfortably. The alliance was fragile enough without Korath's provocations, but no one dared challenge the general who had personally led the defense of 3 core worlds. Lyra reached for the holographic projector controls, and that's when Korath's gaze fixed on her hands. By the stars, he said, leaning forward. What happened to you, Commander? Did you lose a fight with a plasma torch? The chamber temperature seemed to drop. Lyra's hands, both of them, were a tapestry of scar tissue. The burns started at her fingertips and disappeared beneath her uniform sleeves. The skin twisted and mottled, pink and white patches forming an irregular pattern. She'd never worn gloves, never hidden them. A ship explosion, Lyra said simply, activating the display. The remembrance 3 years ago. Shall we discuss the fleet positioning? But Korath wasn't finished. He rose from his seat, his 7-foot frame towering over the table. How can the humans expect us to trust their commanders when they send us damaged goods? Look at her. She can barely operate the controls. This is your champion? The Vrexian officers around the table exchanged glances. Some looked uncomfortable. Others wore expressions that might have been smiles on their alien features. Lyra met Korath's gaze without flinching. These hands have held the line when others fled. They've pulled wounded soldiers from burning wreckage. They've signed the deployment orders that saved colonies your fleet abandoned. If that makes me damage, General, then I wear that damage with pride. Pride? Korath's laugh was harsh. You wear weakness. Among my people, such injuries would bar you from command. The strong lead. The scarred serve. Then perhaps, Lyra said quietly, your people have forgotten what true strength looks like. The tension shattered as the chamber doors hissed open unexpectedly. Every head turned. A small figure stood in the doorway, barely 4 feet tall, covered in the soft golden fur that marked Vrexian youth. Varin, Korath's own offspring, assigned to the flagship as part of his military education. The youngling's eyes were wide with curiosity rather than fear. Varin, Korath's voice cracked like a whip. You are not permitted in War Council sessions. But the cub's attention was fixed on Lyra. He approached slowly, respectfully, his small clawed hands clasped before him in the traditional Vrexian gesture of honor. When he reached her seat, he looked up at her hands with an expression of awe. Commander Hale, his voice was high and clear, untainted by the cynicism of his elders. Your hands, were you forged in battle too? The question hung in the air like a struck bell. Lyra blinked, surprised. Then slowly she extended her scarred hands so the cub could see them properly. In a way, yes. There was a battle. My ship was hit by enemy fire. The core started overheating and the emergency vents were jammed. If someone didn't manually override them, 300 people would die. Varin's eyes grew wider. And you did it? The override controls were in the engine room. The heat was intense, but yes, I did it. Did it hurt? The cub asked with the brutal honesty of youth. Very much, Lyra admitted. It still does sometimes. But those 300 people lived. They went home to their families. Some of them are serving on this very ship today. Varin reached out tentatively, his small fingers hovering just above her scars. May I? Lyra nodded. The cub's touch was feather-light, tracing the patterns of scar tissue with reverence. We have a saying, Varin said softly, his voice taking on the rhythmic quality of recitation. The greatest warriors are forged in the hottest flames. Their armor is not what they wear, but what they survive. Their strength is not unmarked scales, but the marks that prove they stood when others fell. Korath had gone very still. Around the table, the Vrexian officers had lowered their heads, recognition dawning on their features. "That's from the Codex of Honor," one of them murmured. "The old text." Varin looked up at his father. "You taught me that, father. You said that true warriors carry their battles with them always, that scars are not shame but story." He turned back to Lyra. "The commander's hands tell a story of 300 lives saved. What greater honor is there?" Korath stood frozen, his massive frame suddenly seeming smaller. The chamber was utterly silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. "The cub," Korath's voice was rough, "speaks wisdom that his elder forgot." He moved slowly around the table until he stood before Lyra. Then, in a gesture that shocked every being in the room, he lowered his head, the Vrexian sign of deepest respect, offered only to the most honored warriors. "Commander Hale," he said formally, "I spoke from ignorance and prejudice. Your scars are not weakness but testament. Among my people's oldest traditions I had foolishly forgotten, you would be called Kravesh, the fire-marked, the ones who passed through flame and emerged stronger." Lyra remained seated, but her eyes gleamed. "I accept your apology, General." Korath straightened, then turned to address the entire council. "Let the record show that I spoke in error. Commander Hale's fitness for command is beyond question. Her Kravesh marks prove her worthiness to lead." Varin, still standing beside Lyra, looked up at her with admiration shining in his young eyes. "When I am grown, Commander, I hope to earn such honors. To be forged as you were." Lyra smiled, a real smile that softened her usually stern features. She placed one scarred hand gently on the cub's shoulder. "I hope you never have to, Varin. But if you do, I hope you'll remember that the marks we carry matter less than why we earned them." The young Vrexian nodded solemnly, committing her words to memory. As the War Council resumed, there was a new energy in the chamber. Korath listened when Lyra spoke. The other commanders leaned forward to hear her assessments. And when her scarred hands manipulated the holographic displays, sketching out battle plans that would save millions, no one saw damage. They saw a warrior who had walked through fire and emerged carrying others on her back. They saw someone forged in battle. They saw Commander Lyra Hale, exactly as she was.